Before I start talking about the myth of Chernobog and Belobog, I'd actually like to start off by saying that I was a little bit intimidated by finding information on the subject. This is because there's actually no written account on this myth. As a matter of fact, there's no indisputable evidence that Slavs had any writing system of their own at all. That being said, they had to tell their traditions and beliefs orally. This creates many chances for differences and exaggerations along the way. The only time anything was actually written down was by Christian missionaries who were not always interested in accuracy for pagan beliefs. Fragments of the old beliefs are found in folk songs and tales. Now, to begin learning about the myth, let's talk about some gods. First off, we have Chernobog. Chernobog, whose name literally translates to Black God, is described as the god of evil who ancient Slavs honored as a type of insurance against Belobog's anger. He is the god of the night, darkness, and ruler over the dead in the underworld. He is the source of all negative emotions and activities. Next we have Belobog, whose name literally translates to White God. He is the god of life, light, law, and order. He is considered the source of all that is good, as well as being responsible for people's luck and happiness. He was especially sought after during the harvest time for good harvest. He is also described as a long-bearded old man carrying a staff and dressed in the traditional white robes of the Slavic culture. Lastly, we have Rod, the creator and sustainer of the universe, as well as being the progenitor of all other gods and deities. We'll talk a bit more about him later because I personally believe that there's a bit more of a connection between Chernobog, Belobog, and Rod than all other Slavic deities. Now on to the Slavic creation myth. This is paraphrased from the primary chronicles, written in the 10th century. This is the closest thing to an actual written account of the myth as you can possibly get. The world was created by Chernobog and Belobog, but they had disagreements and parted ways because of one subject, the creation of humanity. Belobog believed that humans should be immortal and spiritual creatures, while Chernobog believed that they should be mortals and molded from dirt. This disagreement eventually led to a battle between the two that lasted a total of 77 days. In the end, neither god won the battle. They decided on a compromise. Man would be made from dirt, but have an immortal soul which would be free to ascend to the afterlife. They also decided to split the world into two halves. Day, which would be Belobog's realm, and night, which would be Chernobog's. Interestingly enough, that's it. There's nothing else in the myth because of the fact that Christians purged the area of all quote-unquote heretic beliefs in the 10th century. But wait a second. Wasn't I mentioning something about a god named Rod a while ago? There's another post-Christian written account called Chronicle of the Slavs, composed around 1170 AD by historian Helmund of Bosau. According to Helmund, the Slavic people had worshipped a very peculiar deity who embodied both life and death, creation and destruction, heaven and earth, light and darkness, and would shift between one personality and the other depending on the time of the year. During the months of spring and summer, this god was known as Belobog, a benevolent, white-cloaked figure who carried a staff. However, when seasons changed to fall and winter, Belobog would also change into Chernobog, a demonic figure shrouded in darkness. So this makes me wonder, according to the previous information and various Slavic myths that I also researched, such as songs of the bird gamayun, are Rod, Chernobog, and Belobog all the same god? Did Rod create the earth, and then become conflicted with himself about the creation of humanity and its purpose? To explain why I think this is correct, let me tell you about the climate of Eastern Europe, the home of the Slavs. In the summer it stays at an average of around 70 to 80 degrees, and in the winter it drops to an average of 15 degrees. Recounting information from Chronicle of the Slavs, Belobog was related to spring and summer, while Chernobog was related to fall and winter. This means that Belobog was responsible for temperate climate and life, while Chernobog was responsible for very low climate and death. Life and death, winter and summer, light and darkness. These were the contrasts that were represented by the one god in the Chronicle of the Slavs. Even though this god was not named in Chronicle of the Slavs, according to fragments like Songs of the Bird gamayun, Rod was the creator and sustainer of the world. Could he have sustained it by creating man? Could Chernobog and Belobog have been the forms he punished and rewarded man in?